Welcome back to Buying Sandlot. In today's episode, we're talking to Delano Bats co founder Michael Sonier about creating the baseball bat of the summer. Heralded by some baseball operators, banned from tournaments by others, the company's composite wood bat has quickly become one of the most talked about products in youth baseball. It's BB Core certified and approved for high school and NCAA play and has generated so much demand they're having trouble keeping it on the shelves. In this episode, we dove into how the company engineered a bat that blends the tradition of wood with modern materials, the debate surrounding USA Baseball's new bat standards, how Delano is responding to critics, and why they believe baseball should continue pushing equipment innovation. But before we get into that, we want to thank Black Magic Design for sponsoring the show. Recently, every kick, phase, scrum, and try at this year's Tropical Sevens Youth Rugby Tournament was streamed thanks to Black Magic Design that included 250 plus teams and 750 plus matches across 15 fields and 1.2 million square feet over 4 days of frenetic action streamed live in its entirety at a level not previously seen in the sport. That included their ATEM, Mini Extreme, and Mini Pro switchers and converters for multi-camera streaming and their DaVinci Resolve replay and post-production solutions. Everyone who watches youth sports, from athletes, parents, and grandparents to coaches, college recruiters, and more, has come to expect streaming that looks and sounds professional. Blackmagic Design can deliver just that for your club, event, facility, or school because their suite of affordable products are the same high quality as those used by professional sports teams and in Hollywood, delivering easy-to-learn multicam streaming that opens new revenue streams. For more information, visit blackmagicdesign.com. And now, let's get into our interview. Michael Sonier, co-founder, Delano Bats. Appreciate you coming on Buying Sandlot. Tell us more about Delano Bats and the exciting and innovating stuff you guys are making over there.
Yeah, great to be here, Kyle. Thanks. Longtime fan. Delano Bat Company. We used to make solid wood backs 10, 15 years ago. So we have deep roots in the bat space. But we had this idea probably 6, 8 years ago of how could we make wood relevant, cool, maybe bring some innovation to the wood bat space. Our theme is like tradition with technology. We're a bunch of engineers, so we want to bring tradition. We want to keep the tradition of wood bats, sound, feel, classic look of wood, but bring some innovation and technology to that. So that's kind of been our mission of how could we build the coolest possible wood bat that sounds, feels like wood, but performs in a way that hitters love it. And we worked on that idea for many years. We launched 7 months ago, and it's kind of been a very crazy, humbling ride since.
Yeah, crazy is a good way to put it. I read a couple of articles, one in Baseball America. I mean, they were talking about the disruption you guys are making in the market, a little bit of a stir. I mean, you have the most popular bat this summer. They're saying it's tough keeping it on the shelves and whatnot. PG, Prep Baseball, the NCAA, they've allowed it because it's BB Core certified, excuse me.
Right.
And on the other hand, Five Tool has banned them, and scouts and recruiters are saying they have a hard time contextualizing kind of the performance of it and everything. First, just kind of give us a glimpse into what it's been like for the last 6-12 months. And then second, what do you say to those detractors?
Sure. Yeah. We're here for all of it. First of all, here for all of it. I guess we had an inkling to innovate and disrupt, and I guess we did. It's been a crazy ride. There's been massive, humbling feedback from players on how much they like using our bat. Yes, we are currently sold out. The cupboards are bare. We had no way to factor the demand and interest that we'd be feeling this year, and we are appreciative of all the demand, and we're also thanking everyone for their patience as we try and scale. But to those, to the conversation, I mean, we are actively opening dialogues with all of those governing bodies. We sought approval from all of those governing bodies as we launched, right? We start with BB Core. Then you go to, in the wood space, it's kind of unique, right? Because BB Core is the umbrella approval. And then we went to every governing body that we could think of, Perfect Game, Prep Baseball, along down that line to get approval. We were by NCAA definition in the wood composite category. What we say to folks is we just wanted to put a bat out there that and let the market kind of decide what this thing was and what it is, and we're hearing that, right? So disruption may be, but first we have to understand we were looking. Everybody works under the BB Core spec, right? Everyone does, and we thought, if we look in the wood space, we get put in the wood composite space, right? Because there's solid wood, and then there's bats that are made of wood and something else, right? Which is kind of this wood composite category. And we are certainly in that category. We're not solid wood. We're wood with carbon fiber, much like other products out there in the construction. But I think what we did disruptively was work within the BB Core spec. Those other bats were largely focused on providing a more durable option to wood, where we said, could we offer a more durable option? But what else? We want to provide hitter performance, hitter feel, better hitter feel, bigger sweet spot, more forgiving on miss hits. Don't ring you up as much. Something that really swung light and balanced. These are things that we did not see that were factors or priorities in the wood composite. So we wanted to kind of rethink what wood composite meant, and under the BB Core umbrella. So that's kind of our mantra to those that ask, and we also say those that ask that say this isn't appropriate for here, there, or everywhere. We say two things, or not everywhere. Here, there are certain places at certain levels where pro scouts might be. We say, your call, understand, help us innovate in that space, because we think there are bats relevant for that space too. We think there's wood composite innovation that could be made in that space as well. So partner with us, and let's continue to think how we can continue to evolve this space.
Michael, just to kind of clarify one thing, I just make sure I understand. So once you guys got BB Core certified, that means the bat umbrella is NCAA eligible, NFHS eligible. So in terms of the governing bodies, it's not so much if a specific state governing body for high school sports says we don't want this bat, that's fine. But any parent can go buy this bat, and their son who plays or daughter who plays high school baseball can use it. Same with college, correct? So you're more just dealing with these individual private platforms than like a governing body.
Correct. Well summarized. You got the true governing bodies, but let's say there's one town ball in some state that just says we're solid wood, or we're going to define our own rules. They do, and that's totally up to them. And there's literally thousands of those, right? But they're private organizations, correct?
And so I looked at the bat, really cool. Like, so it's got the hollow inside and everything, maple. I guess I assume you saw it durable. It does not. I obviously would not shatter like a wood bat would. Not like we have Mariano Rivera, splitter, cutter, soft thing. But how does it hold up compared to a traditional quote unquote wood bat?
Yeah, good. What one of the value props, like all of the category we're in, is why are kids not using wood? Because they break, right? So we want to provide performance, feel, sound, but you got to provide durability too, right? Because wood bats are getting more expensive. Quality wood is getting harder to find. So what we've done is not only the architecture of the bat is not only about performance, but about durability. So what we have inside there, I have props, is carbon fiber, right? So carbon fiber gives it some performance benefits, but it also gives strength benefits, right? So that kind of reinforces the wood internally, hence our ability to offer a warranty that's similar to a metal bat of 1 year. So it's critical to our design for durability. So and the other thing is, remember those days when bats would shatter? Ours, because of that internal reinforcement, the breaks are much less severe because the carbon fiber is holding the thing together. I will tell we do have bats that have come back or broken, and some guys are like, I hit a double with this because it just stayed intact longer through the zone. Now, do we get a surface crack? Yes, but some of our design is allowing that thing to stand up pretty well, even if we do get a break.
Yeah, touch a little bit more on the design. I mean, like you said, other businesses do this. Louisville Slugger does it. DeMarini does this kind of process and everything. But yours seems to have the best pop. And I know people love the large barrel that you guys have on it that the other ones can't replicate for wood bats. Have you guys been able to master it? What'd you see in the design specs? What'd you see in kind of the consumer feedback and stuff that made you guys go this way with the large barrel and anything else you can offer?
Yeah, it's that was kind of core to the thinking is uh, what we do on the inside is what we do, but then it's what's the profile, right? And we wanted to go for that significant barrel, almost more towards that metal type profile, but a large wood barrel, right? So that was kind of a primary design intention, was to give kids the biggest sweet spot we could. And then our process allows us to kind of execute our design in that. If you do look at other folks, they have a consistent kind of one diameter carbon fiber rod in there. I could show you, but that probably prevents them from extending the barrel, right? Where our carbon fiber um, inside hugs the internal wall, so we could shape that barrel and have a bit more flexibility to go bigger because of how we insert that carbon fiber. It's really, the designs are pretty similar, but I think how we do that, and how we get that carbon in there and the flexibility we have to insert that carbon allows us, at least we believe, allows us to have that more flexibility on offering different barrel diameters. So that's going to be our springboard to future things, is we can really build upon this. This is our first turn model, but we know we're going to have, some other ideas coming out soon.
No, I agree with you. I think the look of it really is detailed, and it gives kind of that younger kid, like they're swinging a like a bat they'll get from Dick's Sporting Goods. That's metal composite and whatnot. Switching gears a little bit, we first connected because I know you had some thoughts you want to talk about Delano, but you also talked to us about USA Baseball's new bat specs.
Yeah.
For those who might not know, they've changed the rule to allow drop 4, 5, and 6 in high school to help increase high school participation, from which they claim. It's caused quite a stir in the baseball community, as I'm sure you realize, and anyone else that follows along, around player safety. Talk about your reaction to the rule, what impact you think this could have on players, and does Delano, do you see a lane where you think you maybe can expose or help out with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was great to connect on both selfishly about Delano, but it really does tie, I think, a little bit to this change that's happening in market with USA and BB Core. So my first reaction, I think, and certainly the internet does internet things and goes off in many dimensions seconds after the announcement. Um, but first, you got to think about why, right? Like, not only as a bat owner, but a dad and a coach, um, that's a hard transition to go from little league, 46 feet, 60 feet bases, to big field. And when you go to that big field, you're going to the drop 3 bat where you were swinging a drop 10, 8, 5, maybe even drop 12. So any dad who's gone through that transition knows that that's a tough transition for kids, that first time on the big field, swinging what feels like a pretty heavy bat because they were swinging something that had 5, 6, 7, 8 ounces lighter, right? So I think the mission there is noble, is to give kids a smoother transition path in baseball, because we know baseball stats, kids start quitting around that time, right? We just want to make something they can swing, right? Now, there's obviously people out there think that this was a manufacturing money grab. As a very small bat manufacturer, we were not consulted on this, so we're not, But anyway, I think the mission of why makes a ton of sense. I think transitioning kids through. Then what happened, and I am guilty of this, is when I heard drop 5, drop 6, our heads go to this there's this USSSA spec. There's this confusion. USA Little League, the miracle time of USSSA when everybody hit home runs because the bat is like a trampoline. And then you go to BB Core, which they're dead again. Dead. 2 amazing years hitting home runs. Dead again. So when I heard drops, I immediately went 6, 7, 8. Oh my gosh, we're going to have USSSA bats in high school baseball, and that would be insane. Obviously, that's not the case. What it is, to use good English, USA and BB Core are virtually the same spec, right? Even though USA doesn't provide as much detail, they both had the same intention, which again was to make bats that performed like wood. I think USA tests against a solid maple brick, right? So, the fear of this being changing the trampoline effect of bats is not accurate. And I had that concern, and I think we're all understanding of that the trampoline aspect of this spec is all going to be the same. USA, BB Core, all the same. So now the debate comes, and I think this is a good debate, and we're going to have to see, and I have my opinions, does lighter mean higher exit velocity? Now, our high school math would tell you the force, the exit velocity, is mass, weight, times acceleration. Acceleration, if you're lighter bat, you can swing it faster, but the lighter bat doesn't have as much mass. So there's a lot of people, maybe I'm in that camp that says, you give me a drop 6, I'm going to swing it faster, but it's not going to have as much mass, so it's going to be a wash. Now, I've met some pretty smart, well-respected folks in the baseball industry, and they think, I don't care. If I could swing this faster, my exit velocity is going to be higher. So there are people that believe that, but I tend to lean on science. Force equals mass times acceleration.
Yeah, we're definitely going to need a couple more data points other than people just
Right.
yelling on into the void on the internet. And it doesn't start till 2027, so we'll definitely fight about it there. My one theory is that if the NCAA stays drop 3, your MLB prospects, your D1 prospects are not even going to touch a drop 6 or a drop 5 because
Right.
then you can't quantify how those individuals will perform in the next level. So again, maybe this is more for your freshmen, your sophomores,
Right.
who might be some late bloomers who need to kind of get in the gym, build some muscle, and then make their way up to drop 3, drop 4.
Right. That transition from metal to wood that, when these guys got drafted is always the question, can they transition? You're going to have that same question of, well, he's stringing a drop 5, drop 6. Can he transition to the drop 3? Right. And then, I think it's much more complicated than that very simple formula because, what that doesn't factor in is where you put the weight really matters. And this is stuff that we worry about, right? You can make a drop 6 bat swing really light, but you probably are putting all the mass by the handle, right? Like if you put the mass of the weight towards the end, which is end loaded, you could ultimately make a drop 6 bat swing as fast and feel as a drop 3, right? So we're going to have a lot of, we're debating 1 ounce, but where is that 1 ounce? You're going to have 4s that feel like 5s. You're going to have 5s that feel like 4s. You're going to have 6s that feel like 3s. I think that's the mayhem we're going to go through, is because it really depends on where you put that weight. End loaded, put the weight towards the end. That's typically more geared towards a power hitter. Stronger, more power hitter, you get the weight towards the end of the bat. I have more mass. A more balanced bat where the mass is more distributed evenly, I can move that faster. I'm more of a single gap hitter, but I have less mass hitting behind the ball. You get into the hole, that ties into what the torpedo bat was doing, right? Like where they put the mass. So I think it's going to be confusing. I think it does for Delano it's the craftsmanship of how you can fiddle with weight, but where do you put it, right? How does it perform for the hitter? Hitter knows. We know this because we put a bat out there that met BB Core spec like everybody else. Hitters like our bat. So when you start moving around, it's not going to be a recipe to be a success. You got to really move that weight where you need it to give hitters something. Is it going to be confusing for a while? Yes. But I think the mission and the vision of that transition is smart. And from a from a guy who likes innovation, I think it's going to allow the right people to innovate and build really good bats for kids. Will it be confusing? Will there be a lot of debate along the way? Probably.
As a bat company, do you hate pitchers? That's a joke, but the reason
Well,
why I asked,
I'm a pitcher. I pitched, so I'm like, what am I doing making good bats? I'm a moron.
yeah. But I do see people like people I've talked to in the industry that are like pitching has just gotten maybe not out of control, but hurlers have just gotten so much faster. I mean, we see Striker Pence, who I think is 17 years old. He's dotting 100, 101 on the black right now. So like a lot of people were saying like, hey, listen, maybe I don't agree with the new rule in high school baseball, but these these batters, these hitters, they have to we have to bring the pitcher and hitter discrepancies. We have to bring them closer together in the high school area.
I think you're onto something. Despite being part of a bat company as a baseball fan and someone who's watching the development of these kids, and the metrics prove it. But you're spot on. Like I see the evolution of technology, biomechanics of pitching, and how we can almost put a blueprint to a kid to get to 100. It's almost down to that. If you do this and lift this weight and get this percentage of hip to shoulder separation, you're going to throw the rock hard. That evolution, and I talk to people in professional levels, like that kind of evaluation and biomechanics is somewhat behind in hitting, right? Hitting's like X velocity, but like, are we really critiquing the biomechanics of that hitter down to the level to the hitter? So I think you're spot on. And I think there's a big opportunity there, and you're going to start to see that technology come. And from one man's opinion, for Major League Baseball and baseball in itself to be successful and grow like we all want it to, yeah, you can't have pitching evolving faster than hitting, right? You just can't. And then ball, bat, stadium, fences. But you start with the hitter, right? Like I think there's things that we could do from a hitter perspective to help them catch up. Because like you said, Striker Pence is thrown 102, Miz is at 105. Where are we going to go? We gotta get the hitters being able to combat that. So, I mean, Bryce Harper wanted to use metal bats in the home run derby, but I don't think we go there. But maybe Delano is the place for Major League Baseball. I don't know. So.
There you go.
So I think it's partly it's like a cultural thing in the sense that I understand that kids are throwing way harder these days, and obviously I'm not comparing high school kids today to big leaguers, but the mound was much higher in the 50s and 60s, and guys hit Bob Gibson and Sandy Koufax. So I think it's possible. I think if anything, it's a approach when it comes to hitting. I was a not very successful high school baseball player, but you got to choke up, you got to widen the zone with 2 strikes, move the runners over. It would be nice if it boggles my mind that guys come up the minors to the majors and they don't know how to bunt. I've never understood. I feel like if you're going to play Major League Baseball, you should be able to put a bunt down. I just think that should be like a rule. Like they should. But anyway, you mentioned Major League Baseball.
You're spot on, right? Like yeah. It grosses me out that like if you put a shift in back in the day, guys would just hit it the other way and beat the shift, right? It's just like
exactly. There was I'm sure Ted Williams saw shifts. He just hit the ball the other place
all the time.
All the time. You mentioned MLB, and look, this is just my words. I think it's very obvious that Major League Baseball looks at the NBA, looks at the NFL, and the sort of free developmental systems they get out of college sports, and are like, hey, we want some of that. They reorganized the minor leagues. They cut minor league teams. They're reducing the number of rounds in the draft. They're firing all of these veteran, local area scouts that would scout these games. At what point do you think MLB is going to say, we need to figure out a way to make the bat more similar to wood at the college level, but also the high school level, also the elite travel level? And I don't think it's all about money for them. So I don't think they want to subsidize and say, hey, Big 10, SEC, Big 12, ACC, here's all the wood bats. I don't think they're going to do that for high schools either. Do you think that a bat like Delano's could be the answer there to this is a way for us to get control over the, for lack of a better term, free developmental system we want to kind of have? And bats like these can be more similar.
I, I mean, you've hit on a lot of interesting things. I mean, I don't think we're grandiose or egotistical enough that that's where we're going to head necessarily, but you touch on things that I think are important to the game that a company like Delano cares about, right? I think we want kids to play the game. We want kids to get stay in the game because we know little league and then they drop off. And you don't like bifurcation, right? Nobody likes bifurcation where they're swinging wood and everybody else is swinging metal, right? But why did metal happen? Is because it's really hard to hit a wood bat, right? Like the sweet spot's really small and they break, right? We know that's how we evolved, but to the point of like, could there be a world where there is a feeder process of bats? It's just what USA is doing. USA is saying drop 4, drop 5 for the younger kids, drop 3 for older. We do believe at Delano as a wood composite, why is there not a same process, right? Hey, you're young, don't go from metal to all of a sudden you're playing in a wood bat tournament and you're getting rung up, you're breaking it, and you're not hitting it out of the infield. Could we get you something that's wood, sounds, feels like anybody who's been on a tournament, I think we'd all acknowledge, I hope, that wood just sounds better.
Mm-hmm.
But tradition, but like it's a high performing wood bat at that age. And then as you go up, almost like get closer to solid wood. Solid wood, phase that composite for your skill set and your interest, right? That's kind of that at the macro level. I think that's good for the game, and it's good for Major League Baseball. And selfishly, I think it's ties into what we're trying to do at Delano. Now that I've given all the company secrets out on the internet, but sure.
Kind of like how, I mean, at least in the Northeast, I don't know if it's in other places, but we go from 40-60 to 50-75, and then we get to 60-90 and stuff. So it's a little gap in between there. You're thinking kind of like, hey, here's a little back gap, to ease your way into maybe
Right,
solid wood down the
right,
line. I like that.
right,
I like that.
right. Like, yeah, I think soccer balls change in size, basketball change in size, fields change in size, right? Like it is a thing. So
Yeah. Last one from me. You know, how far can bat tech go? I feel like in the last 30 years, there was a lot more technology, let's say, than the first 100 years of bats and stuff. I mean, I played and James played. Coach brought a duffel bag to the game. You had 3 bats, and they were usually Eastons, and they were about 40 years old, it looked like, and stuff. Now, kids are swinging high flyers or whatever the heck they're called. I don't have a kid yet. I'm sure I'll be in that game in a little bit down the line. How far can bat tech evolve?
well, it can evolve crazy fast, and that's why you have specs, right? Like you need to have governing specs because you could do we built some crazy things with our bats, right? Like you can make crazy hot bats. So you do need to rein it in. So the question is, we try to innovate for the good of the game, not just to make things crazy hot, not to make them crazy colors, crazy hot. It's like, what are you trying to innovate towards, right?
Now let me ask you.
Still,
Sorry, one more.
yeah.
Let me add on to that for a second. BB core seems to be the gold standard right now. Some would say it's old, some say it's antiquated and stuff. Does there need to be another standard as well to push them to maybe innovate more? I know I might get you in trouble with that question, but I'm generally interested in what you think, about the BB core bat specs. We've talked to people who said it's old and antiquated, and we're kind of looking at our own metrics right now.
Yeah, it's a good question because as a new company, we're not going to be able to monopolize or cheat. You're not going to be able to swindle anyone. We want a transparent playing field, and then let us innovate on top of that. So it is interesting. BB core is built around wood, great concept, but the metal bats have evolved, right? They're still getting, even though they say they're BB core, they're 5, 6, 7 higher miles per hour higher than exit velocity. So does it need to be dialed back? It only looks at exit velocity. Should they be looking at other things? Should they be looking at sweet spot size, barrel diameter? So yeah, I say all of that. Is that good for Delano as I say that out? Probably not as we sit today, but as we think about our long-term future as trying to bring value to the game, that we're here for it. Like, we want to hop onto that train because um, every spec should be considered, but it was built off a good intention of perform like wood, but things are changing, and there's some really smart engineers pushing up against every possible limit, and maybe you need to dial it back. But to me, X velocity is just the thing everybody infatuates on, but I think there's so many other ways to think about the spec.
We can understand it. I would say, like, I can understand
Right.
what exit velo is.
Right.
You tell me about.
Exactly.
I mean, you're talking about mass and velocity, and my eyes almost rolled in the back of my head. That's why I'm doing a podcast. I'm not a math guy, so it's like, James, you got anything to finish?
No, I'm the same way. When I hear stuff about exit velo and everything, my eyes just roll back of my head. I mean, I'm gonna be 37 in October. I'm not like an old man, but like, I just kind of grew up in a way where it's like, you play baseball, you hit the ball, you move runners over like that. I do think that's a part of the issue is that it's all about hitting, but that's another day. But the other thing too, I just was kind of surprised that no matter what, I mean, I would imagine that the way you guys look at it is that there's nothing artificial that is being created from having wood involved in the bat. Like that, this sort of cuts against the logic that somehow like adding wood and adding this sort of factor would somehow make it a way that distorts a scout's view compared to another metal bat.
Yeah, I mean, we do pride on ourselves. We never say we're a solid wood, but we like it. We're traditionalists. We love the sound. We love traditional baseball, and we like to say we're made out of a solid maple billet. We're the most wood. I haven't done the math. And I don't want to throw formulas because you guys will collapse on me. But like, we are the most wood of a wood composite. That stuff matters to us because we're not trying to game the system. We do really wanted to bring tradition with technology, and if that meant disruption, we're here for it, and we're going to work through it.
Mm-hmm. I know you Drexel guys love your math and everything, so you're talking to a couple state school guys, Temple University and in South Carolina. So
flaunting my dragon. I don't even know where that school is. It's been so long.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, Michael, coming on. It's such an interesting thing you guys are doing. We love seeing bad technology being innovative. We appreciate you answering all those questions that we have. So we'll be watching you and everything. Excited to see what you guys are producing. Excited to see when you guys get back on the shelf so people can enjoy that nice little wood bat sound and everything. And good luck in the future.
Appreciate it. Big fans. Thanks for the opportunity.